So yeah, now that we kind of have some of these terms out of our way, uh, we can think of what all different career paths are associated with these fields, like data science and AI. It has become a huge field right now. So there's like data analyst jobs, there's data engineer jobs, data scientist jobs, machine learning engineer, AI researcher, applied AI engineer. I think that's like the newest job out there. There are some that I haven't mentioned here, like the forward deployed engineer, etc., etc. But I would say these are the main categories of career paths associated or related to AI. Um, is anyone in the room already in such a position that is who is a data analyst or a data engineer or data scientist? Can I see some hands if anyone is already a data scientist or data engineer? No, but do you guys want? Have you guys heard of these uh, job roles? Raise of hands. Okay, awesome. Uh, Thanks. I'm sorry, I don't have any other way to get feedback from you, but I can see you. So, uh, but yeah, data analyst is like the investigator, right? If there's an issue, you want to know, analyze the problem and data and look at the data and see what's happening. Data engineer essentially is the data plumber. There, I mean, I want to go through in detail some of these things. For example, let's go through the first one, like data analyst, right? What's the role and responsibilities? Uh, you can, I think, once you sort of, okay, the reason I want to go through these different um, career paths is that you should try to figure out what you want to do, uh, and then specialize in that particular category, because all of these are require different specializations, I would say. And so if you are not already in one of these roles, then it's best to choose one and then specialize in or learn more about that particular role. Once you get into the field, like if you are a data engineer or a data analyst, it's easy to learn the rest of the field. If you are a data analyst, it's easy to become a data scientist. Or if you are a data scientist, it's very easy to become a machine learning engineer. So it's easy to move from one role to another. But getting into one of these roles, getting a job at at a company in one of these positions, it requires you to focus uh, into learning into learning a few small set of things, right? You cannot try to begin by learning everything. That would not be possible. You need to focus on one particular role, and you can choose which one based on, you
That
know,
was very
what you think you can achieve, what you are
certain.
interested in,
They will not be
etc. You may not
so
be able to
yeah,
become an AI researcher.
and
A- AI researcher is
so
probably the
every
hardest job
student everything
amongst these, right? You probably need a PhD. You need to be really smart. You need like, have you must have done a lot of research, etc. So I would not suggest going directly for AI researcher in the short term. Maybe in the long run, you can become a researcher in AI. And that's why it's good to know what are the different career paths and what are the requirements, what are your day to day, how your job will look like, what tools you will use so that you can learn them, right? You can focus on one career path and you can learn the tools, get your foot into the market,
अच्छा
get a
हटेंगे
job
तो
like a data scientist or data analyst or data engineer, and then you can expand uh, horizontally. Once you become a data engineer, it's easy to become a data scientist or a data analyst, right? And we'll see why it's easy to go from one role to another, uh, because they are very related. All of them are related to data. That's why. So yeah, let's look at data analyst role first. Uh, by the way, before we move forward, is what I'm saying clear so far? Can I get a raise of hands again? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Um, cool. So data analyst role, you are supposed to, you have the job of being a storyteller and a truth seeker. You are at the front line of data-driven decision making. My wife is a data analyst at DocuSign, and I'll talk more about what she's working on so that you get some real world examples. But essentially, the job of a data analyst is to help product managers, marketers, and executives, leadership, leaders in the company, help them understand what's happening in the data. If there's a problem, it's the job of data analyst to figure out what the issue is, what's going wrong, identifying trends, or what's going right, what should you spend money on as a company, etc. Right? And most of the days, a data analyst writes SQL queries, creates dashboards using Tableau or Power BI, and then they have to create presentations like the ones I've created for you guys, but more charts and more plots and everything, right? And tell their story, tell what they are seeing in the data to their bosses and to business leaders and to marketers and managers. So that's basically the job of a data analyst. Analyze the data using SQL, create dashboards and diagrams and everything. I think Power BI, Data Tableau are the most popular tools. BI engineer is another role that is similar to data analyst. But yeah, are you guys familiar with SQL? How many of you know SQL? Okay, awesome. I see almost half the folks, more than half, know SQL, right? How many of you know Tableau or Power BI? Cool, that's great. So yeah, if you already know some of these tools, it's easy to specialize in them, take up some, uh, you know, work on some projects, become good enough that uh, you know people won't say no to you. They're like, wow, you are great at analyzing data. You can become a data analyst pretty easily. But yeah, these are the main tools used. And even though AI is becoming good enough that it can probably do a lot of the SQL queries and Tableau and everything, but there is still a lot of demand for data analysts, especially if you have some sort of business oriented uh, nature, or if you can tell the story right. Because the first thing that I said about data analyst is you are a storyteller. It's fine if you know SQL. It's great if you know SQL and if you know Tableau or Power BI, but it is not just about getting the answers. Half the job of data analyst is that you should be able to present your findings to business leaders. You should be able to talk and convey the data and what you found in a very simple fashion, because your bosses, your leaders, the CEO or the marketer or product manager, they are not going to be very data savvy or tech savvy. So you need to be able to tell that story. That's a very big part of the job. So you have to be good at communication, for example. And how can you build your portfolio? Let's say you are not into you want to be a data analyst, but and you are just getting started. How do you build your portfolio, right? I think what I personally think is, um, if you build up a few projects, work on a few projects, showcase them through your resume, put them up on GitHub, etc. I think it really helps you learn the various tools, as well as helps you showcase your expertise to recruiters and so on, right? And so I've added this building your portfolio section to every role, so that you can get some ideas on how you can showcase your expertise as a data analyst, or if you're looking for a data analyst job, how can you improve your chances of getting a call back from a recruiter? If you put your GitHub profile right at the top of your resume, and if your GitHub profile is impressive, uh, you have a higher chance of getting a call back. Like even at senior roles, recruiters ask me, "Do you have GitHub? Do you have any projects that I can take a look at?" So it definitely it plays a big role. So yeah, let's look at how you can build a portfolio for a data analyst. I think it's pretty easy. You can find some data set from a site like Kaggle or data.gov, and then you can use Jupyter notebooks or Python scripts to massage the data, to clean the data, do some analysis, uh, extract some insights, build some Tableau dashboards, or visualize your findings in some other way, like using some plots, some libraries, etc. And then make a story. The story is super important. I think people think they are a good data analyst just because they know some tools and can write some Python scripts, but that's not true. A big part of data analysis is to be able to build a good story. So train your muscle in how you can write a good story. Like I'm sure you must have seen some nice infographics, right, on Instagram or even on LinkedIn, and some of the infographics look very cool, but they don't quite have a story, a flow in it. And some of them, even though they are simple, you can actually uh, see a story, and it's very easy to follow, and you get engrossed in it, right? Just like a movie. When you watch a movie and the story is good, that's a good movie, right? Without a story,
So
even if
I
there's great acting, you'll be like, yeah, story अच्छी नहीं थी,
everyone is
story ending सही नहीं थी, etc., etc. So similarly here.
I think everyone is
But yeah,
so
how many of you know of or have used GitHub in the past? Cool. I can see some hands. I think if you are not familiar with GitHub, it's super important to take a look at it. It's essentially, I can actually show it to you. Let me see. So, GitHub is essentially a platform where you can, let me see. Yeah, so I have a few repositories, for example, not many because I've mostly worked with, but for example, this is my repository from my previous job. And let me see if I have other repositories. Yeah, some job title predictor, some seniority classifier, some chatbot I had written some
On
time
face.
ago,
Use your phone left and up.
uh, some SVC tool that I had written a while ago, and a couple of other things, right? So
On
you
face.
can
Move your
basically show
phone
off
left.
your projects on GitHub, add some data, add some code, etc. And it's a great way to share what you know or share what you've learned. So I definitely would suggest looking into GitHub, creating a profile, and adding your projects as you work on them. Okay, next role, data engineers. Data engineers don't analyze data like data analysts do. Their job is to make sure that the data is available, it's reliably and cleanly available. Uh, Data engineers answer the critical question: how do we get reliable data from all different sorts of messy sources, clean them, and make sure they are available so that the business stakeholders can use it. Whoever wants to use it can use it. Like data analysts can use it, data scientists can use it. Your CEO, CTO, anyone wants to run any SQL queries and have some questions answered. The data has to be ready, right? Otherwise, none of it's going to be possible. And so that it's the job of data engineer to actually make sure that the data pipelines are set up and they are running automatically, etc., etc. And so they use tools like SQL, Python, Airflow, Spark, Hadoop, etc., to build these data highways or data pipelines. And without data engineering or data engineers, there won't be any data to model and use and analyze. And so usually they are the first hires along with backend engineers at many companies. So for example, I was hired as pretty much a data engineer slash machine learning engineer at my previous job, and that was because data engineers really are the one of the first hires. You need a backend engineer to set up your app. You need like a front end engineer, and you need a data engineer if you're going to be working with data. So very very important role, very in demand role at all times. Like I've seen data engineer roles be in demand for 10 plus years. It's still in demand. How many of you have worked with Spark or Hadoop or Airflow, these tools? I guess not. So I wouldn't say they are super hard to get into, but data engineer role is pretty close to software engineer role. So how many of you have done software engineering or have done coding? Okay, cool. I see a few hands. So if you can write software, and if you can learn to write software using libraries such as Spark and SQL and Airflow, then essentially you can become a data engineer. And I'll give you some example projects that you can do. Again, these are just to give you some ideas. You can obviously, I'll give you more details and more links later on how you can, you know, build projects. But yeah, uh, for data engineers, essentially what you want to show to the recruiter or show to your next company boss, you need to show them that you can build data systems, robust automated data systems. Automation is very important, and being able to move data from one source to another, transform it using databases, that knowledge is super important. So for example, a sample project could be you take a public API like a weather API, um, and that gives you data every day. You can scrape. How many of you have done web scraping? Has anyone done web scraping in the past? Okay, awesome. I guess some of you, not that many. So web scraping is essentially uh, web scraping is the you know process of extracting data from websites. So for example, Wikipedia has some data, right? How can you extract this data if you want to use it? Or for example, let's say Delhi weather. So all this data is coming from somewhere, right? If you go to AccuWeather app, for example, they have this data. Um, they have hourly data, or even like minute by minute data, etc. So how can you take this data and build a nice chart? Like you see, for example, these plots here. Oh, sorry, this is not a plot. This one. You see this really cool um, diagram which shows that, I guess this is United States. Yeah, it's United States. So it's showing that some pleasant weather here, there's some hot weather here, there's some dry weather here, etc. Right, and how the wind is blowing, blah blah blah. So how do you? I mean, this is all powered by data, right? So for someone to come up with this diagram, there has to be data somewhere lying in a database to do some analysis. And that's the job of data engineer, to get that data. So if you scrape data from such websites and then build such plots, uh, I think that is like a end-to-end pipeline. You can load that data in a database like Postgres or MySQL. And then one of the important parts of a data engineer's job is to automate the data. Like the data should flow every day. It should not be you did it once and uh, you know that will be stale data, right? If the data is not flowing every day, your data is not fresh. So your data needs to be fresh. Your data pipelines need to be automated. That's a big deal. And so you can use something like Airflow to run your pipelines automatically. That's also super important. Okay, next role, data scientist. Data scientist is somewhat similar to data analyst. There's some overlap there, but the main job of data scientist is to build models. That's the main job, and for that they obviously need clean data. They you have to build features, engineer features, and then you have to train models. Mostly nowadays, people do a lot of training in Python using like scikit-learn library, PyTorch library, etc. So these are all the libraries that you can use that a data scientist will use to train models. And then obviously you have to evaluate the performance. And these are some, I guess, examples like recommendation engines, forecasting models, spam detection, fraud detection, etc. So these are all different kinds of models. For example, when you make a transaction, if you use your credit card or your debit card and you make like a huge transaction, your bank will not allow that transaction. Uh, for example, if I when I'm visiting India and if I use my credit card from the US in India, it gets declined. Why? Because there's a model running in my bank somewhere that says, "Hey, this person is suddenly either he has like changed countries, or it's likely that that card got stolen and the thief is using it somewhere else." And so that model is essentially flagging the fraud or possibility of a fraudulent transaction. And that is so some data scientist has essentially used or a location feature and trained that model. So yeah, probably the most popular role in the last I would say 10 years or so, because the most popular product like ChatGPT, like we said, what is ChatGPT? It's just a model, a huge model, but still a model running in some their website, right? And data scientists came together, probably some of the smartest data scientists in the world. They came together and built trained this really good model, right? So data scientist role super important, but also there's like huge competition in this particular role. So how can you build your portfolio and showcase your okay before I go here, how many of you have um, used some of these libraries like pandas, numpy, or scikit-learn, or at least heard of them? Okay, awesome. I see a bunch of hands up. So yeah, I would say these are probably the most popular libraries, so I'm not surprised that a lot of you already know of it, these libraries. And now we can I guess I can tell you what kind of projects you can build and put up on your GitHub that will, that through which you can showcase your expertise. So the goal here, or the project goal, is that you can follow the scientific method to build and validate a predictive model. So what do I mean by scientific method? Scientific method means you train a model, but you can also test your model, because many times the goal in data science, or as a data scientist, your job will be to improve your model, not just build your model. You keep improving your model, right? And that is the science or scientific method, where you have a model, you figure out where are the gaps, where it is not performing well, etc. And then you have a test set, and then you improve something, you check the performance again, you make some changes, again check the performance, and that back and forth of experimentation is essentially the scientific method. And that's kind of what you have to prove that you understand very well if you want to be a data scientist. And so you choose a problem that requires modeling, like house price prediction, or classifying customer reviews, sentiment analysis, etc. And these are like some very common use cases, right? And then you get some data, you create feature variables, you use some modeling techniques, you evaluate your model's performance by metrics like accuracy, precision, recall, and then you put a story together saying, this is what the model is good at, this is what we found, etc., etc. So storytelling also super important in this role, data scientist role. But yeah, super critical role, very competitive, but also there are a bunch of there has been a bunch of demand, huge demand in the last several years. Next role, machine learning engineer, somewhat related to data scientist role, but this is again one of those roles that is very close to a software engineer role, because your job here is to build a system that can take the model and run it in a very fast fashion, and it can be used by millions of users.
Bisa bagi
So,
besi.
for example, you must have seen
Tapi kamu
uh,
direction bola, kau jawab sekali kali.
Hotstar, right? The IPL matches and World Cup cricket matches come on Hotstar. So there's a number at the bottom right or bottom top right of the screen saying these many crore people are watching this match. That means that many crore people are using their service at that point in time, uh, in parallel, right? And that is the job of a machine learning engineer or software engineer, to make sure many people can use that service at the same time. And so, just like ChatGPT can be used, um, or is being used at the same time by millions and millions of users. And so, there are machine learning engineers in OpenAI whose job is to take that huge, big LLM and host it somewhere, scale it, etc. So, that's essentially machine learning engineer's job. To answer the question, how do we make this model fast, scalable, and reliable for millions of users? Some of the technologies used are Docker, Kubernetes, cloud platforms where the models will be hosted, like Amazon, Google Cloud Platform, Azure, continuous deployment pipelines, etc. So these are all techniques that you will be familiar with if you are a software engineer, because and they are also very commonly used by a machine learning engineer. Think of machine learning engineer as basically a software engineer, but um, you are working with a model and not just code. You are working with a model that has been trained by a data scientist in your company, for example. So yeah, you build the infrastructure. That's your job. And if you want to build a portfolio as a machine learning engineer, you have to be able to show that you can host an app, you can ship production ready code, you can deploy a service. So something like building REST APIs using fast API framework or Flask framework is super important. Being able to use Docker, containerizing your application using Docker, this is extremely critical. uh, Writing scripts to deploy your container to cloud service. So you need to have some kind of experience with cloud platforms like AWS or GCP. You should be able to have all these things put together. You should have a README that says how exactly can anyone build and run your project, etc., etc. So yeah, essentially, if you see any machine learning uh, project, for example, let me show you. I was showing you my repository, right? So in our repositories, we have these GitHub workflows. So you can see all these deployment workflows, for example. Let us see one of this. This is an Airflow deployment workflow. This is a campaign manager production deployment. So it says how this is the service we want to. This is a database we are using. This is we are using Google Cloud, etc., etc., and a bunch of these setup, right? And so all this setup you should be able to do if, and it looks a bit like overwhelming, but if you slowly understand what is Docker, etc., etc., you can learn how to build your own services. How many of you have heard of Docker? Okay, cool. So yeah, Docker REST API. How many of you heard of REST API? REST API. Few more hands, I'm assuming. Cool. So yeah, building a REST API, having experience with it is super important for a machine learning engineer. AI researcher, I won't go too much into it. AI researcher role is similar to data scientist role, but with a focus on deep learning and large language models and so on. But very similar to uh, data scientist role. Probably like a specialized data scientist is what how I would call them. And you can build your portfolio again by picking the right projects that are related to LLMs, fine tuning on custom data sets. That is super important. You can use libraries like Streamlit or Gradio to showcase what you have built. Again, these are all pointers so that if you are looking to become a data scientist, you can use these libraries to showcase, build projects, work on them, and put up on your GitHub profile. Super important. The last one is the AI engineer role or applied AI engineer role. This is probably the hottest role in market today. In this role, your job is not to build a model or to build the infrastructure like machine learning engineers. Your job here is to use those models, use that infrastructure, and build an application. So all sorts of applications. For example, right here we have this, this Ask Gemini button. So I can say stuff like uh, explain this slide, and cool. So I received some response here, right? So this feature is is built by an AI engineer. This is a feature that is running on top of an LLM, right? And this says this slide title blah 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 explains that this is a rapidly growing and in-demand role, etc., etc. So it's trying to explain something. Uh, so all these small features that you see on various apps, those are built by AI engineers. Their job is not to build the models or whatever, but their job is to build AI agents, build chatbots. ChatGPT is a chatbot, right? So that is built by some AI engineer. Prompt engineering. I'm sure most of you have heard of prompt engineering, for example. That is something AI engineers use quite frequently. Uh, LangChain. How many of you have heard of LangChain? Awesome. So LangChain is a library that you can use to create complicated workflows, right? That involve prompts and so on. Maybe in the next session, we can take a look at actual coding up application. But this session, I just wanted to focus on the fact that how can you, get started on your own. So for example, I've mentioned two example sample projects you can build, like a chatbot app using LangChain. You can build a multi-step AI agent that does research for you. So something similar to like Gemini, right? If you go to Gemini, they have deep research mode, or even ChatGPT, I think has it. If you go to ChatGPT, I think there's a deep research mode, right? So what is this deep research mode? It essentially is going to, if you ask some question, it is going to take more time and have multiple agents do the job for you. Can you not see it? Okay, you can see it. Cool. So that's an AI engineer's role. Um, okay, yeah. Enough about all the different like theoretical roles and how you can build your portfolio. I guess I can talk a little bit about what I have worked on in my career. and give you some example as well as from my wife's job. So she works as a data analyst at DocuSign. Uh, she has worked on a couple of projects. The recent one she worked on was industry data cleaning project. So basically, in the sales team at DocuSign, they had to. Um, so DocuSign sells to many customers, right? Have you heard of DocuSign? How many of you heard of DocuSign? Not heard of DocuSign? Okay. Um, so basically, DocuSign is a uh, e-signature company that became very popular during pandemic because in whenever you have to have a business contract, uh, what do? You sign papers, right? But during pandemic, people couldn't meet, so they were signing e-papers or e-contracts, like online contracts, and that's what DocuSign does. You can essentially create a contract with between two people or two parties or two companies, but online, and you can sign those contracts online, etc. And so DocuSign sells to many such like people, many companies, etc., and so on. But they wanted to have a clean source of industry data. For example, uh, everyone has heard of Google, right? Everyone has heard of Google. Which industry does Google belong in? So, for example, let's look at Wikipedia. What Wikipedia says: Google is a multinational company focusing on advertising, search engine, cloud computing, software, etc. So these are all like the industries that I would say is a Google functions in. So similarly, her project was figuring out what is the industry of various customers that DocuSign has, because that is super important for them to understand which industries they are selling into. So this was like a multi-month, it lasted many months, and she used ChatGPT and similar tools. Sometimes manual cleaning of data, sometimes cleaning of data using ChatGPT. So, for example, let's just go to ChatGPT. Which industry does Google function in? Right. So ChatGPT says Google functions primarily in the technology industry. So something similar, right? And some of the main segments include cloud computing, AI, blah blah blah. So doing this, uh, using this, she cleaned a lot of the industry data, and then some of it which could not be cleaned by AI, she cleaned manually and so on. So that was like a project she did as a data analyst, right? And there was another project called Master Data Management, which means again having a central source of clean data. So data analysts also have to do, apart from analyzing data, I mean, analyzing data to figure out which data is clean and which data is dirty is like one of the first steps as a data analyst. And then cleaning that data using whatever tools you have at your disposal. So yeah, she works as data analyst. So a lot of her projects involve that. I worked as a data scientist, machine learning engineer, software engineer, data engineer in various companies. And like I said, once you get into the field, you can move easily and learn on the job, newer technologies and tools. So for example, I worked as a data scientist on the demand forecasting project where I build where I built models that forecast demand for a particular thing. So, for example, uh, some of you are wearing Puma shirts, right, or white shirts, and how many of these shirts sell at different locations in stores is important for retailers to know, and so forecasting this demand is basically super important for them because, for example, um, whenever like a new iPhone comes up, there is always huge demand for iPhones, and they run out of iPhones, right? So you have to wait for a long time for iPhone to become available. Similarly, if you want to buy some new shoes or new clothes that are very in demand. You, as a company, you want to know how much demand is going to be, estimate that demand, and that is called demand forecasting. So that's what I worked on for a particular company in the past. Recently, I worked on a data indexing project. So that is more like a data engineer job. We took a lot of LinkedIn data and we used Airflow to index that data in a database and make it searchable. Again, searching, indexing data is, I would say, something that happens in every company. Every company. So every company needs data engineers who will do this for them. That's why I said data engineer is a very important role. If you were not familiar to a data engineer role, I would encourage you to learn more about it. It's super in demand role, and not that different from software engineer. If you are a software engineer, you can become a data engineer very easily. If you're not a software engineer, obviously you'll have to learn how to code and so on, but it's very much possible, and it's very in demand and highly rewarding role as well. So yeah, I worked on a data indexing project, for example, in my recent company. That's pretty much it. That's all I have. I have this document that I created, uh, which has a bunch of these details. uh, it was created by AI. Like I said, I did a bunch of prompting to get this data. If you are curious what those prompts were, I can show it to you. Do you want to see the prompts? Raise your hands. Okay, awesome. Let's see. So the very beginning, I said I want to give an overview lecture on AI and data, and how to use it in your career to folks in their 20s who know some Python and want to get into these fields. 1 hour lecture, what should I cover? So I hope I covered you guys. 20 something. I see, I think you're younger a little bit. But yeah. And then it said, of course, I'll help you out, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, this is good. It gave me some ideas. I like part two, expand on it. I like part four, but make it part three, add AI engineer role, blah, 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 blah. So I made give some more details. I wanted it to add some more details. Skip part five, it is too specific to data scientists. Then it gave me some, you know how it goes, right? You talk to ChatGPT, give some reply, you change the prompt, etc., etc. So that's what I did. So anyway, so this is that document. I think it's pretty good. And there are some other links as well you can follow, and that document is linked here. So I'll send this slideshow to Gaurav and Naveen, and I guess you guys can take a look at it. But I would urge you, I would encourage you to look into these different career paths and pick one. Don't pick multiple. Don't be try to be a generalist saying, oh, I will learn these tools and then I can apply for multiple roles. Don't do that. Pick one career path, look at the tools, look at the job postings for that career path. What do the job descriptions say? Sometimes the job descriptions will say, right, i want I want candidates that have these knowledge in these tools or experience in these tools. Like that's a very good tool you can use. That information you can use to go and learn those tools, and then uh, build some projects and showcase on your GitHub. That way, it becomes you can rise above the competition in the eyes of the recruiter. The recruiter will give you a lot more importance if they see you have projects on your GitHub profile, and you can use some of these uh, portfolio ideas that I've given um, to essentially build your own projects. So yeah, I hope that was useful. I can take some questions, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. Um, but yeah, I hope you guys. I'll send over the information, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask some questions directly there as well. And I can send you my LinkedIn profile as well. Mm, not sure what's next. I guess I can answer questions if do you guys have any questions? Anyone has questions? Yeah. Feel free to send me on LinkedIn. Um, I can share some data or my LinkedIn profile or whatever. Naveen, are you there? Or Gaurav? What should we do? Should we take some Q&A, some questions, or should I drop? Is that it?
Hello, sir. Maybe we can have some questions doubt session of 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can go on for 5, 10, 30 minutes, however long, but
Okay.
how will they ask questions?
So they can ask questions. We can open the mic from here, and they will ask their questions.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess at least one person had questions, so I'm happy to answer.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
I can hear you.
All right. So my question was about as I'm in my final year, so I am kind of interested in more research, but I never tried the machine learning path. So I know some models like there's a new model which Meta created, which is based on machine learning, where they kind of try to like imitate the process of brain. Like I'm kind of more interested in the biological aspect of the machine learning. So it interested me, and there was another model, Dino version 3. If you have heard of it, like it is
Which
a machine
which
learning
one?
model. Dino version 3.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is an recent model. So it actually got my interest, but I'm not quite sure like how to navigate through that path. Like I don't know the career aspect of it. Like as you explained, the roles were that you actually explained was very foundational, like the data engineer, data scientist, and all of that. So I just see like there are roles need of them, but I don't know like how to navigate through it as I never tried machine learning. I don't know much about it. I do know the like, languages and frameworks, but yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in the research side of things, I
Yeah.
think I covered it a little bit in AI researcher and data scientist roles, but that's how you can get started. You can read those papers, try to understand them. If you really are interested in becoming a researcher, one of the first things you should be able to do is replicate those papers.
I see.
You should be able to implement the papers um, that you are interested in. So, for example, I'll show you. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So there's this book. Have you heard of this book by Sebastian Rashka, Building a Large Language Model from Scratch? Uh, I can I can send this to you, but there's a book you can read it. Uh, they also have uh, a GitHub repository where they explain how you can build a large language model from scratch. And I would say that uh, that would be the first step for you. And then the second step would be, once you know the basics of one large language model and how you can implement one, you can figure out what are the different types of um, models or research areas that model after your brain and so on, right? A lot of this is, or a lot of that research is uh, based on some of these models or how they are useful in the industry. So I would say try to implement one of these papers, and as you uh, read the paper, if you don't understand anything, you should ask AI, ask ChatGPT, Perplexity. Literally, keep on asking, right? If you don't understand a particular sentence, what does it mean? Explain to me like I'm like 10 years old or 15 years old. And keep asking till you understand that sentence. Then you move on to the next sentence. And like that, you should be able to understand the whole paper. You should be able to implement that paper in Python or whatever language. I think that should be your first step. And then once you are able to do that for any one paper that is like important or in your field or that has impressed you, then you can move from there to either doing your own research, or you can contact a professor in your college, or maybe other researchers um, online. There are many researchers online who are happy to collaborate. If you show to them that you know this field or you are interested in it and you have some background expertise, like you can code, for example. So if you can show that using some projects, you can contact any professor in the world saying, hey, I have these projects and I'm super interested. I want to work with you. I want to collaborate with you. How can we get it done? And people will respond to you. If you send out like 100 emails, 200 emails, a few people will respond, and you can kickstart your research journey like that. Uh, but the first step is to read research papers, understand them, and implement them. You should be able to implement at least a few research papers yourselves. Cool, good question. Anyone else? If not now, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask questions there also. And maybe I might do one more session where we can go more like practically we can do some coding as well. I mean, I can do it now too, but uh, I think you guys are already a bit tired, so I'll do it in the next session. Cool. If there aren't any other questions, I will go to sleep because it is 11 p.m. right now. Naveen, can I log off? I think there aren't any other questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for this knowledgeable webinar, and hope to connect with you soon in the next
Yeah,
session.
of course. Yeah, I would love to do something practical. We can build a chatbot. We can do some coding. There's a lot that can be done in 1 hour, especially if you use AI.
Yes, sir.
So I would love to do that. Let me talk to Gaurav on what's possible.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay, bye. Take care, everyone, and best of luck.